Hey everyone! Hopefully we are live at the moment. Thanks for being able to catch us, those of you that are live. If you are not live, just leave a comment, like, subscribe, and just watch through the video. We'll go over through a few major topics, but in short, the main thing we're going to be talking about is the fact that round one is complete, and we have won it, and we'll be going on to round two, facing up against the Anaheim Ducks. So this is myself, a Runatic 5, otherwise known as a Rune. With me today are Adam,
Oh,
otherwise known as Sweet44722, and James, otherwise known as Paul-McCartney. Sorry, I thought you guys would
did you
just
forget our
chime in.
names
That's my
from
bad.
that? Oh, I was gonna say it wouldn't be the first time I forgot our names.
No, I didn't forget your names. Don't worry. So the topics for today then are the same as it usually is for our playoff breakfast. It's more. We'll be talking about how games 5 and 6 went, and we'll also be covering the upcoming series that's coming up with the Ducks, and perhaps talking about the other teams that have been eliminated, depending on how time works out here. But I guess on the point of games 5 and 6, why don't we start off with game 5? What are your guys' thoughts? How about you, James? Just general thoughts in terms of what was good in that game.
General thoughts in Game 5. I thought it was a really great bounce back game. After the debacle of Game 4, 7-0, it was super important to just cut your losses, put it behind you, and move on. And I thought, for the most part, they dominated Game 5, and the OT, I believe shots were 14-2 by the end of it. So without Martin Jones there, that game would have ended in 5 minutes instead of 18 or 19 minutes, however long it was. Um, they were great. San Jose almost stole one. That's how I look at it, but they didn't. So fuck them.
Yeah. Adam?
So I'm looking at the stats here and pulled it up. It was a Oilers dominated that game.
Yeah.
Let's be real here. The Sharks played well in the first period. Shots were 16-13 for the Sharks in the first, but I'd say the Oilers were about 2-0 after the first. Um, so they were down 2-1. They played a pretty solid period. I couldn't actually watch the game. I had to go pick up my friend from Vancouver for 420 because he decided he wasn't gonna take a ride home. I listened to the game, but from what I could listen to, it sounded like the Oilers played pretty well. I know Darnell Nurse hit 2 posts in the first period alone, so game could have been vastly different than it was. If we look at the second period onward, the Sharks had a total of 15 shots. 14 shots. The Oilers had, let's see, 21, 36. So when you put up, 35. When you put up 35 shots between the second, third, and to OT, it's whether or not you want to debate whether quality shots, they're controlling the puck more often. So I think it was a good bounce back game. James said, they played really well. I thought Draisaitl came out and played another good game played a good game after having the first four be really bad. And we'll talk about the reason later, I think. But it was a good bounce back game for the team, especially for Draisaitl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. On that point, Draisaitl, I mean, what a way for a guy to take a very bad loss, a bad penalty, big game misconduct, have a fairly large amount of fine levied against him, the highest possible under the current CBA, and then take that all in stride, come back, and at the very least make it appear as though that they have he's easily the best player in that game. Like, it was as simple as that. He led the way in terms of putting that power play goal where he drew all the defensemen in and found that one single lane to pass it to Letestu into, and Letestu got a great shot off there where it was almost a save, but Jones wasn't able to get enough of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the OT game-winning goal by Darnay, where Draisaitl again drew the attention of Braun, and then dished up that perfect saucer pass, and made basically everyone else's lives around him much easier for them to find success in their play. He didn't get any goals in that game. It was all assists. But I guess on the topic of goals, that leads us to the next game, Game 6.
Well, I was going to say before we move on from there, it's worth noting too that two other guys kind of stepped up finally. It was Patrick Maroon.
Yeah,
it was the other guy, and the one before we were saying, and then David Desharnais, I think, got his best game as an Oiler. And even Game 6, I think he played pretty well. But Game 5 definitely ended up with the 2 points, game-winning goal. He played well, finally.
Excuse me.
Finally.
So.
Although what I will say is that I wasn't able to catch Game 4, but Game 3, that line with him and Pouliot, and I think it was Letestu or Slepyshev on that line, they were very dangerous the entire time. They just weren't getting any goals going for them. Definitely that level of intensity is being brought on by Desharnais, and that's really good to see.
I don't know if Desharnais was so much a force on that line as he wasn't an anchor, but he wasn't a force. I think he played well with them, but I don't think he was driving a lot.
I think the play was being driven a lot by Pouliot. And on that note, in my eyes, two players that were really good the entire series, but probably didn't show up on most people's radars, or at the very least a score sheet, were Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Benoit Pouliot. I thought they had a phenomenal series, especially on the penalty kill, because that had to be huge the entire series. With both of them understandably having bad games on that Game 4, but everyone had a bad game on that Game 4. That's sort of a wash. You gotta look past that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess really quickly going on to game number 6. What are you guys' thoughts on the fact? I don't know how do I best explain this, but what are your guys' emotional thoughts on finally winning a playoff round after 11 years of not making the playoffs?
I felt like going into the playoffs, everyone was almost scared of San Jose, and they were scared of the playoffs, and a lot of people just had the attitude that they're happy to just be there, and that's not the attitude that I had going into the playoffs. I thought we were better than San Jose right from Game 1. I thought we could take them right from Game 1, and you just got to have a more confident attitude. Anaheim is significantly better than San Jose, but who cares? Why not us? That's how I feel. And then with Game 6, I think it showed that the team can lock it down in big situations. When San Jose scored their one goal, I was crapping my pants, but they held on really well. Aside from the Pavelski 2 poster, they were. There was nothing really that scared me that much. So
I mean, for that Pavelski 2 poster, then you have that Draisaitl stick breaks on the empty net shot, right?
I lost my mind when that happened. I was screaming. And
that seemed like an act of God.
I know, because I was like, they're gonna come back and score now. This is how it ends.
Yep. And they're gonna go back to Game 7, and they're gonna blow us out.
They're just gonna 7-0 us again. Yeah.
Well, and see, that's the funny thing. You talk about being positive, but Oilers fans seem to have the Stockholm syndrome, where it's like the moment something goes wrong.
I think that's every fan base, though. Let's be honest here.
No, I feel like the Oilers fans have been burned so often that's the first thought to jump in our mind. It's like I know my first thought this year was when we made the playoffs. It's like, okay, we made it this year, but we're probably gonna miss next year anyway. And I'm like, why the fuck would I think that? It's not to say that we're not gonna get any worse next year. We finished second, so the only place to go is up. Really, it's one of those things where it's a first year of a rebuild, but it's an odd feeling. But I think I can almost side with James on this one because it seems like a lot of the fan base is hesitant, but the team feels confident in their abilities and the way they can play.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I mean, if you look at the last few minutes of play, we had Oscar Cliffbaum sitting, our best defenseman sitting the entire third period because he had a fever.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
to,
And on
to
that
go
point,
into the,
like really quickly, you guys wouldn't even disagree, right? He has been our best defenseman both in this series and in the regular season.
Yep.
Right? Finally, like after so long of just waiting
Cliffbaum?
for him to finally blossom, he was best. I would consider him my best defenseman this season, but especially in the playoffs.
he stepped up to another level in the playoffs.
Especially in the playoffs.
Yes.
Oh man,
Yeah.
another level. Yeah. For most of the regular season, I thought you could probably make an argument for Sekera to be the best on the team, but playoffs specifically, Clefbaum has been far and away the best defenseman on the team. Nurse,
Yeah.
I thought, got a lot better as the series went on.
Yes.
But Clefbaum's still number one, 100%.
Although I think a big reason for why Nurse got better as the series went along was he started playing with Benning a little less. And that may have played a role in it. But sorry, Adam, I interrupted you to talk about Clefbaum being sex bomb.
Well, I think it's one of those things where the guys have a lot of confidence themselves, but in Talbot too.
Mm.
We haven't really seen an Oilers team where they've had that much confidence in a goaltender in a long time. Like we talked about Devin Dubnyk, but the team looked like they had no confidence.
Oh, we could talk about Devin Dubnyk all day because we're seeing that right now.
It's one of those things where it's like it seems like finally the team's accepted that they have a goaltender that can bail them out, and they're able to take more chances. Darnell Nurse, as the series went on, started to push more, started to be more Brent Burns-ish, if that's an appropriate analogy, in the sense that he's taking more rushes, he's pushing the pace a bit more. On line changes, instead of hanging back and waiting for the attack, he'd jump into play, hold the puck in the offensive zone so the team could change. Less dumping it in, more trying to make plays, that kind of thing. And it's we talked about Nurse maybe feeling, I know James, you had said last time that maybe he thinks he's better than he is, or he plays like that. But it seems like now that maybe his confidence is growing, his abilities are getting there too, and he's not trying to push the issue as much, but he definitely is being told to go out and push the issue.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I think to be honest, to beat the Ducks, we need the defense to be active because the Ducks, outside of their top forwards, don't have a lot of scoring, but their defensemen are very high scoring.
Yeah.
And they're getting back Fowler.
Lindholm is back. And who's the other guy?
No, it's Fowler and Vatanen.
No, Fowler's not back. Lindholm and Vatanen are back. Fowler might be back later on in the
Fowler
series.
is expected to be back for the next round.
Yeah, we don't know if it's going to be game one, though. It'll be later on in the round, is more likely.
Yeah, but at any rate, what I mean is that when you're playing a team with that much defensive depth, you have to have your own defenseman come up big.
Yeah. When, like, Cam Fowler was the odd man out, and then he has an exceptional season, like, that's a really good defensive core to go up against. When you have, like, Shea Theodore as a seventh defenseman, it's sort of a really daunting task in terms of offense created by defensemen on that team.
Yeah. Sorry, James.
No, nothing. I was just looking up the scoring list for the Ducks this year, and I think, Perry, I only didn't notice this. Perry only got 53 points this year, and he played a full season, so I don't know.
It was his worst season in years.
Yeah. I'll bet you, though, like, he's a playoff vet. He knows how to turn it on.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, more than that, like, I think the most dangerous, like, offensive threats are going to be... for viewers at home, I have new news. The Ottawa-Boston series is now tied at 2-2. It's Game 6. Ottawa leads the series 3-2. For that series, I think one of the big players, like, make or break, is going to be whether or not Kessler can make an impact in terms of shutting down McDavid. And then the other impact for their forwards will be how well Getzlaf's going to continue chugging along.
Getzlaf
the way that they have.
Turned on his dad dick. Like he absolutely just fucking flattened the Flames.
Yeah.
So
he was single-handedly the main reason that. No, I wouldn't say single-handedly. Hiller was the biggest reason, to be honest here.
And you know that Ryan Kessler is going to be McDavid's shadow.
Yeah. I think right now the odd thing, and it was worth noting. Actually, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but Nick Kyprios brought it up in the game yesterday that Braun and Vlasic had played so hard with McDavid, and McDavid is so much younger and faster that it seems like towards the end of the series they were starting to get tired. McDavid was starting to gain a little more distance every game, and not, yesterday he probably had more speed in the neutral zone than he has all series. And what ended up happening, we saw Draisaitl just blow Braun out of the water. Braun had no chance on his breakaway, and it's one of those things where, yeah, Kessler's going to be able to he's going to try to shadow McDavid, but I think it's going to open up space for the Nuge, Lucic, Eberle line, and they were starting to play well, and I think they're going to start clicking again in the next series.
Yeah, Pool Party, yeah, you're absolutely right.
So.
Draisaitl has been huge against the Ducks this season. I think he has somewhere like 3 to 5 goals. I'll have to double check that stat exactly. But I did want to bring in another stat, just looking at the point totals for the playoffs. And again, Corey Perry has been relatively, I would still say visible, just because they only played 4 games, and he did get 3 points out of that. Excuse me. But the bigger ones are Richard Raquel, Ryan Getzlaf. Ricard Raquel. Richard. I'm calling him Richard just to piss him off. It pisses him off.
Yeah, because he's totally going to watch this.
Oh, absolutely, man. Who doesn't watch this? And surprisingly, their best defenseman in the first round has been Shea Theodore. Theodore,
he came up huge.
He has 2 goals and 3 assists in the 4 games that he played, and he still played like 20 minutes a night. He had 4th most minutes played. Number 1 on their team for minutes played is going to be Getzlaf, so we got to be ready for that.
So Pool Party is absolutely right, by the way. And he had the most points against the Ducks this season of any team. This is Draisaitl. In 5 games, he had 6 goals, 2 assists for 8 points, and a +5. 6 of them all 6 goals were even strength.
Sorry, D. White, which series are you referring to that had a lot of breakaways? Are you talking about our season series against the Ducks, or just the round 1? Just comment in the chat. Sorry, coming back. I guess we talked about the good in games 5 and 6, so let's quickly talk about the bad. Adam, did you want to start, or did you want me to start? And the ugly as well. I guess we'll combine it, the bad and the ugly.
Yeah, I'll start.
Sure,
you start.
I mean, they need more from the second line. Eberle has 1 assist. Nuge had 0 points. And whenever I watch Nuge now, I compare him to McDavid in my head. I know I shouldn't. I can't help it. But McDavid he's an F1 car. And Nuge looks like he's a 1994 Corolla skating up the ice. Like, man, it's insane.
At least his fuel pump works properly, unlike mine.
Yeah, well, like, they need more from Nuge. They need more from Eberle. Lucic only had 2 points as well. He started off pretty well, but he's got more to give, and he should be playing, or he should have more to give. And that's the bad. The second line needs to be a lot better. And then the ugly.
Excuse me.
I don't know if there's anyone that really qualifies as ugly. I mean,
Sakura.
I have a grudge against Chris Russell, but that's just me. And I thought Benning was pretty bad for the whole series. So.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on the betting point, and for sure, that second line definitely, like, a lot of the stuff is in place in there, but they gotta put it in the net. That's the main thing that's missing right now. They're producing chances. I love the quote that McClellan said after the end of the series. He was asked, like, what did you think about Vlasic? Adam, did we lose you? Hello?
Nope.
Oh, it just said that you went online for a quick second. The point shouldn't matter. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you, Reed, David. Like, the McClellan focus in that matchup, like in terms of line matchups, wasn't to keep McDavid's line away from Vlasic. It was to make sure that Nugent Hopkins' line was always on when Thornton's line was on. That was his objective. He was always wanting to make sure that, the moment that Thornton line was on there, on the ice, the second line was on the ice. And they played that role of shutting it down. Obviously, everyone in that game, Game 4, had a shitty-ass game, and that's where the Sharks got most of their points, and that's why we have a negative goal differential at the end of the day. but I think they did a fairly good job at pushing the issue and getting more chances than the Sharks did at the end of the day. But the Sharks, honestly, in my eyes, the bad and the ugly will fall to, excuse me, Sakura. A little bit of Russell, but I think Russell did well enough on the penalty kill. A lot of the small things, mind you, that I was just fine with it. But Sakura was the one that really just irked me just a little bit too much. There were 3 or 2 different goals that Sakura was a part of, where there was a passing play in front of the net, and rather than Sakura like handling that in a calm-ish manner, he panics and he spins out and he falls down, and then it's back in the net. Do you guys notice that? There was the goal in Game 5, the first one that the Sharks scored, and then the goal in Game 6 as well.
The goal in Game 5, he was the one that dished it up to Cassian. He's the one that messed up that pass, or was it him?
I'm not sure. I have to double check that one. What stood out to me more is the fact that he was so sold on just having covering the passing lane that he didn't cover the passing lane. He just spun himself out.
Yeah.
And then it's the final pass that put it in the net, because it was a really good
overcommitting. Yeah. Overcommitting a little bit. Yeah.
So I was looking back.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead. I'll be talking in circles. So I want to do.
Okay. I'm looking at the chat here. No, go ahead, Adam. You know what? Go ahead.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm looking back at the defensive, the amount of face-offs each player took in the defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of just sheer numbers, Mark Letestu by far and away took the most at 59 face-offs. That's only defensive end. Leon Dreisaitl's at 20, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is at 23. Yeah. So what this tells me is that Mark Letestu obviously is being used as a face-off specialty, but that although Nugent's line is starting in defensive end more often than Draisaitl is, and even McDavid only took a total of 12 defensive zone face-offs.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have the OT percentage because I can't find it on the NHL website.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically what it is Mark Letestu is taking the most defensive draws, and then it seems like the Nuge line, like you were saying, Arun, is being tasked with playing shutdown.
Yeah.
Which is an odd role for a goal scorer, a power forward, and a playmaking centerman.
It's not a real true shutdown line.
It's not, but they are playing effective shutdown minutes. But it's one of those things where it's like we need them to produce, but if they're consistently playing well shutdown, do we need to rely on them? Yes. I look at it as kind of thing as next series. I think they have to come up bigger because the Ducks aren't as deep as the Oilers are in terms of offensive potential.
No.
And if they don't produce while McDavid's line gets shut down, we're in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But on that point, one thing that I really liked from T-Mac in this series was the fact that the moment he realized that first line was not working, he broke it up and then put it into different places. And that's what really empowered Draisaitl to have the impact that he had in Game 5. Game 6 as well, when he was able to score, was McDavid on the ice as well?
Most of the time, I believe, yeah.
Okay. Then, I don't know. It's hard for me to pinpoint that one exactly.
I just, it's one of those weird. So, I mean, if you guys look at how he was playing when he wasn't on McDavid's line, he was struggling, but at the same time, he had also the flu. So, do you think McClellan goes back to that option if we have to in the next series?
I think he definitely
does he stick with the? Do you think he should? Do you think he should, or do you think he should stick with what worked over the course of the season, which was Draisaitl, McDavid, and then whoever else?
I look at what worked in the playoff series, and that was breaking up that line and then changing it up, allowing you to have a scoring third line.
I'd probably keep Kajula on that line, on that top line.
I wouldn't.
I like Kajula more than Maroon. That's just me.
Slepyshev a little bit better than either of them.
Yeah,
But
I'd rather win
on
Maroon
that topic of players not looking great, it was noted by McClellan in post-game interviews that Draisaitl, Clefbaum, Maroon, and I believe it was Cassian or another player are all sick with the flu, or have been in the series.
Yeah, if
Well, they got a
Cassian
couple
was sick,
days now, so
I was gonna say if Cassian was sick during
Cassian
the
got it
first
later
2
on,
days,
is what's being said.
I
Same
was
with
gonna say if he got it the
Clefbaum.
first few games, we need to inject him with more flu because Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, it's insane, right?
But I think you can kind of see the interesting thing with me though is that despite like the team didn't look slower, but certain players looked off. So I'm kind of wondering if we go in Anaheim or 100%. You know, we won our season series in Anaheim this year. We were 3-2. And if we look at their advanced stats right now, Kevin Biesca is currently top of the team.
And he has 4 assists to his name too. VX has
Antoine
4 assists
Vermette.
to his name. It's not as if he just has like
Antoine Vermette is currently highest in Corsi 4% at 59%, with 59.5 offensive zone starts. So he's playing a fuck ton of offense, almost no defense. And his averages 13 minutes a game. He's highest on the team. The next highest is Josh Manson, who also had a really good first round as a defenseman filling in, and he's at 55.4 with 20 minutes per game. So if we look at this, like their defensemen are their highest Corsi producers right now. Ryan Kessler is actually dead last in Corsi on the team, despite playing 19 minutes a game. He's at 39.8%.
What's his defensive zone draws?
His offensive zone is 12.5. His defensive 87.5%. So he's being used as a hard shutdown forward.
Oh yeah.
and McDavid's shadow, man. Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing is, I'm gonna
man.
try to find McDavid's points against the Ducks this year. You guys can talk for a bit. Sorry.
Yeah. Apparently McDavid had the flu too, so there's that there. Hopefully he gets over
like
that faster.
Shit in his post-game interview last night, actually, with Cassie Campbell.
Yeah.
He looked pretty rough.
Yeah, I actually on that topic, I'm really hoping either this Ottawa series or not the Toronto series. Screw you, James. Goes to Game 7 just so our boys get at least 2 extra nights of rest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's worth noting, even as Kessler shadowing McDavid, he was averaging 22 minutes and 4 seconds of ice time per game in the 5 games he played against the Ducks this year, and put up 2 goals and 5 assists for 7 points.
What was the 2 goals, 5 assists by Draisaitl?
Yeah, so okay. I'll take by McDavid.
McDavid.
Kessler's is apparent shadow.
Yeah.
So I mean, if that's Kessler's shadow, then I'm okay with that.
Can you find Draisaitl's totals?
I already did.
Oh, you did? What was it again?
6 goals, 2 assists, 8 points in 5 games.
6 goals, 2 assists. That was it. Okay, sorry about that.
All even strength too.
Yeah. Yeah, D. White. Like when I heard the number of people that had the flu, I was just thinking like, why didn't they just like get flu shots or something? It was a little disconcerting to be sure.
Flu shots are only effective for a certain area. You know that.
That's true. You can't tell me about bio.
Come on.
Anyway, quick question then. So we have the Game 5 and Game 7. We've talked about that extensively. Who would you consider your MVP for the first round? Your best forward, your best defenseman, and best overall. Adam, for the Oilers. And we'll pick best overall for the Sharks, just to be on the fair side.
Yeah. Best forward for the Oilers had to be Zach Kassian. Even with the flu, he was still playing fairly well. He kind of disappeared a little bit in the last couple of games. You could tell he was a little sick, but I thought he was our best forward overall. Best defenseman, Clefbaum, no question.
Oh, that's not
even setting up the third period with the flu, he was still good in Game 6. And then our Cam Talbot, I think, is the best overall player. Mm-hmm. He absolutely robbed a number of players on the Ducks a number of times, kept us in games we didn't deserve to be, and then had 2 shutouts in the series. So he, for me, was the best player for the Oilers.
And who should consider the best for the Sharks? This one should be easy.
Martin Jones.
Yeah.
To be honest,
Jones,
he was good. He the main games he probably couldn't have been in the when he got shut out. So, yeah. The goalies were fantastic.
James?
Well, for the last 2 games of the series, I'd say Draisaitl, but overall, on the series, I'd have to say Cassian as well. He did screw up a couple times, but he played. He was much more than advertised. I didn't really expect that from him. I didn't expect much from him at all, actually. I expected more from other people. So for him, I thought he was probably our best forward relative to expectations. Our best player, probably Talbot. Aside from Game 4, he was pretty lights out for the whole series. And San Jose, I don't want to say Jones because you already said that. I'll say Vlasic. I think for the most part, he did a pretty decent job of shutting down McDavid. McDavid got the empty netter and a shorthanded goal that I don't think he was on the ice for in Game 2. So, yeah, I thought Vlasic had a good series.
I think it's actually one of the odd decisions.
I think the point of Vlasic shutting down McDavid is a little on the overrated side, especially when you look at the Corsi differentials between Vlasic as Braun and McDavid. Like McDavid still carried here close to a 60%, while both of the other two guys were below 40% for the series.
Mm-hmm.
Adam?
I think it's actually interesting to note. I was looking at Corsi relative at even strength for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. What is that type, by the way?
Actually,
I can't find it.
Hockey Reference.
Hockey Reference.
The
thanks.
highest on the Oilers is actually Jordan Eberle with 10.6%.
Damn.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, he had a lot of chances. That's absolutely for sure. I thought he was.
Oscar Klefbom came. Sorry.
No. You keep going. Don't worry.
Oscar Klefbom came second with 8.4. Then it's Lucic with 6.7. Greiba with 5.5. Although I'm going to attribute that to sample size.
Yeah.
Leon Draisaitl had 5, and then Nuge had 4.1. So in reality, the second line, despite not producing chances, was producing chances.
Despite not producing points.
Not producing points. Yeah. Well, that's the point that I was making earlier, though, is that like
a lot of people thought weren't producing chances either, though.
Yeah.
No, I thought that they were producing chances, but
wait, no, I thought they were producing chances. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought that they were producing chances, but I mean, in the end, chances don't go up on the scoreboard. I mean, I don't care about chances. I care about goals.
It's the results at the end of the day matter. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. And people are saying that the second line was our shutdown line, which I don't really know if I agree with that. I don't know if the team has a true shutdown line because you're not going to get a shutdown from McDavid's line. And then Letestu is centering the third line with Cassian and Maroon or Kajula or Slepyshev. Like, that's not really a shutdown line. And then the fourth line, Desharnais, Pouliot, and whoever else, like, that's not a shutdown line.
No, we were saying it was being used by a shutdown line specifically because T-Mac said he was using that as a shutdown line.
The second line?
Yes.
He was using that as...
Because whenever Thornton's line was out, he was always putting out Nugent Hopkins.
Whenever I think of a shutdown line, it's a shutdown line. Like, Jordan Eberle is not a shutdown kind of player.
They have been more defensively responsible this year.
Yeah,
I can kind of see it. They have been more defensively responsible, and I guess that's their task this playoffs is that chances are secondary, but we need to be defensively responsible first.
Yeah,
and that might get us in trouble in some rounds, and they might have to modify that. Obviously, I think I have a feeling in the second round they're not going to be used as that. They're going to be used as the offensive go attack them.
Yeah.
But if that's the Sharks are deep on offense to an extent.
No, I think they're going to be used more on defensive role, Adam. I don't agree with that. I think it's specifically going to be trying to shut down Getzlaf. Because that's again, another case of all of their offense coming from one source.
Does Kessler not play with Getzlaf?
No.
No.
They're both centers.
They're both centers playing on Getzlaf's first line, Kessler's second line.
Yeah, okay, so that makes sense. Yeah, all right. My mistake.
Nope.
I think it's worth noting, by the way, that Zach Cassian played as well as he did, despite putting up a gaudy minus 10% Corsi relative. of course, relative. So he had almost as bad as Jordan Eberle, but on the opposite spectrum, despite producing 2 game-winning goals.
Damn.
So,
Huh.
I thought that was obviously probably subject to the later stages of the series, but he also was only at 12-15 average ice time. So
Yeah.
he was producing when given the chance, and I think once healthy, I think the minutes will probably even out a bit more.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on and give my response as well. I think the best forward, in my opinion, in this series was no, I had this, but it's hard for me to pinpoint exactly because the guy that stands out most obviously is Cassian, and the main reason that he does is because he had those 2 game-winning goals. But the thing at the end of the day is that those were the only 2 goals that he got as well. If I were to give an MVP forward, I would still give it to McDavid. I think that, especially by the end of the series, he was still the best forward on the ice. He was creating the most amount of chances for the Oilers. Or, of course, in terms of an eye perspective here, I'm not looking at the exact Corsi numbers. Of Corsi relative numbers, excuse me. And at the end of the day, he had the most points of any Oiler in the first round of the playoffs. With 4 points in 6 games, which is just as many points as the top point producers for the Sharks, albeit they had 3 guys with 4 points in 6 games. For me, best defenseman again, this is easy. It's Klefbom. There's really no argument here. 3 points in 6 games. He had the game-tying goal in the 5th game. He started off all of the scoring in the first game, and he was just constantly dangerous. The thing too is he had a fairly large number of shots. Comparatively speaking, he had 11 shots on net. And actually, on a similar talking point here, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins had the most shots of any Oiler in the first round of the series. And I'm double checking here just to make sure that I'm not going to be wrong in saying that. Yeah, he had the most shots of any forward on both teams with 17 shots. So it wasn't for a lack of trying, especially in that OT of Game 5 where quite literally he's diving, it's getting in there, and Martin Jones gets a paddle behind him to try to get that out.
That was so great.
That was such a ridiculous. That's like one of my best playoff saves kind of save right there.
Martin Jones was unreal.
Unreal. And on that point, like just to like hype up the Sharks because they were a fairly good opposition team. They didn't roll over and die, for sure. I would suggest that their best player was. From a non-Martin Jones perspective, was Joe Pavelski. 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists. It was a -1. He produced the most number of shots. He was constantly creating chances, and he was just really dangerous. Mind you, a lot of his points did come in that Game 4, but one crossbar is what kept him from tying that game last night. So for me, definitely Joe Pavelski. So I think that basically concludes everything about this series. What are your expectations for how on a line-by-line matchup, or what we could do is forward matchup, defense matchup, and goaltending matchup? Who do you think will come out on top between the Ducks and the Oilers?
Jeez.
It's a long analysis here, but whenever you guys want to chime in.
Forwards.
I think it's pretty much unanimous among us. Forwards, Oilers are better. Defense, Ducks are better, right?
Yeah.
Any argument there?
Goaltending, I think I have to give to Cam Talbot.
Mm-hmm.
Better regular season stats, more starts. We leaned more heavily on him, and he performed. To me, the difference is going to be special teams. And I know that's ridiculous because we always say that, but if I took a look at the first round stats between the Ducks and the Oilers, So first off, looking at like minutes per game, averaging penalty minutes per game, the Oilers had the highest in the first round at 10.49 penalty minutes per game. That obviously decreased towards the end of the series finally, but the Ducks were at 10.45 minutes per game. So they're only at 4 seconds less per game. They're really not that far off our pace. Despite that, the Oilers penalty kill was running at 80.8%, so pretty average. And the Anaheim was running at 62.5%. So if we look at their power play is still running. They had the best power play in the postseason at 23.1% so far, and the Oilers are the last at 12.5. But it's what?
I would say your most important penalty killer is your goaltender.
Right. But what I'm saying is that the penalty kill for the Oilers is average right now, and the Ducks is piss poor. And you had mentioned before we started, actually, that's how Calgary scored. You said what? Two even strength goals.
Yeah.
Entire series. Now it's only 4 games, but it's worth noting that if this keeps up, and if the penalty kill is that bad, which their special teams coach is.
Which team are you talking about?
Paul McLean, who ran a terrible power play and penalty kill in Ottawa for years. That might continue in the playoffs if the Oilers can put good pressure. So they have to take the chances that they're going to get and convert, and that could be a difference in at least a game or two.
Yeah. See, for me, in that goaltending matchup, I think John Gibson will be the more dangerous guy. And that's not speaking against Talbot in any kind of way. I wasn't able to finish off my MVP of the Oilers list, and my MVP of the Oilers was definitely Cam Talbot. But that being said, John Gibson allowed 2 even strength goals in the entire series. And we're talking about a team in the Flames that basically, for the majority of that series, were completely on top of, if not pushing around the Ducks on an offensive level. So when you're taking that into consideration, John Gibson is definitely going to be a really huge threat for us to take care of. But at the end of the day, he still did allow 7 power play goals. So that's where, as you said, Adam, a lot of our concentration should be coming in towards. For me, though, one of the key things that it comes to, James, I'm going to let you finish this point, or continue on with the previous point if you want to, is how good the Ducks are at stirring shit, for the lack of a better term, and how bad the Oilers were for falling into that trap in the.
I was going to say something about that. The Ducks have a lot of shit disturbers on their team, to be honest with you.
Corey Perry.
Corey Perry, Getzlaf, Kevin Bieksa is still there. Nick Ritchie, he's a shit disturber. They have a lot of agitators on their team, and Edmonton fell into that trap really easily in the first round. So they got to keep their cool and just chill out a little bit when they're playing against the Ducks, because that's the game that they're going to play. So I think that all things being considered equal,
I mean, if you want...
Adam, you're lagging.
Yeah, lag there. Sorry, I didn't realize you were still talking.
Go.
I think if you look at it in the sense that, we're going to get opportunities on a power play. Hopefully the Oilers have taken what they've learned from the first round against the Sharks and are going to apply that to the second round.
Hopefully, but who knows?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, every game of the playoffs has been a challenge and a learning experience in some kind of way. But, as much as you can say we've learned it and put it past us, a big part about learning is going back and getting the same lessons again, except in a different form.
By the way, it's worth noting in the sweep, the 4-game sweep, John Gibson was actually pulled in game 3 because he allowed 4 goals on 16 shots.
That doesn't seem right.
It is.
Yeah, you're right.
You
You're lagging. Hello.
Yeah, I missed that completely.
I think it's
All right. So, uh, who do you? Okay. I guess then, now that we have our official matchup, who wins and how many games? James. Yeah, you're lagging. Don't
Okay,
worry.
sir. What's the question? What's the question?
Yeah, there we go. Who wins and how many games?
Edmonton in 7.
7. Adam?
I go Edmonton in 6 because I think the Ducks are a better matchup for us than we think.
Yeah. And on that point, I think, what it comes down to is a lot of it. I wanted to talk about this point, and I apologize. I'm smashing it in here right now. The series matchup against the Ducks this season has been 3-2 in our favor, and I think it'll go to 7 games for sure. And the reason I say that is because 2 of those wins for the Oilers have been in overtime, in 3-on-3 overtime, and one of the worst teams in 3-on-3 overtime this season has been the Ducks. Followed closely by the Canucks. And then it's going to be close, and I think it's going to be a lot of OT games. But one thing for sure that's going to be a huge threat for the Oilers is that we're going to have games where we're going to lose a little badly, and when we do win, it's going to be close. So, but I do think we can win more in the end, and I have us winning in a 7-game series against the Ducks.
It's the reason I'm saying 6 is obviously Anaheim has home ice, so I think the Oilers win it on home ice.
Anaheim hasn't lost in home ice for like a very long time. I can double check that
best
stat.
time for it to
break,
end.
Exactly. But you know what else? What other stats really fun for the Oilers? They haven't lost 2 games in a row since January.
When's the last time the Oilers lost 2 games in a row?
No, I'm talking about the Oilers.
Oh.
I'm talking about the Oilers.
Gotcha.
The last time the Oilers lost 2 games in a row was a very long time ago.
I was gonna say, before we started as well, I think we'll have to wrap it up fairly soon here. We're getting close to time, but if we said they're 15-0-3.
Yeah.
So their last regulation loss came against St. Louis on March 10th.
And their last loss, their last loss on home ice, as far as I can see it. Okay, last loss on home ice was a shootout against Buffalo on the 17th, and in regulation was on March 5th. Against the Canucks.
Us, I think, right? No, it was against Vancouver. Sorry.
Vancouver.
So, but since their winning streak, they've played Buffalo, San Jose, Edmonton, Winnipeg, New York, Vancouver, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Calgary, Chicago, LA. And then they win the playoffs. So, of those teams, I would call a good team of that winning streak. Chicago was playing pretty well at that point. I mean, kind of. They were starting their slump. I would call the Rangers a good team. The Jets were they were okay at that point.
Yeah.
And then the Sharks. So
yeah.
Other than that,
sorry, I'm going to interrupt you, Adam.
Playoff team.
Adam, I'm going to interrupt you. Are you talking about since their loss in regulation to the Blues?
Oh, sorry, the Caps to be in there too.
Yeah, the Caps. They lost they beat the Caps in that process. That's a President Trophy winning team there.
President Trophy winning team that currently might lose to the Leafs. So.
Oh, they have a series lead right now.
Yeah, we'll see tonight.
Yeah. As Babcock said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Caps are a weird team.
Yeah, it's true. And the Caps, sometimes I've noticed is that the Caps come in to the playoffs fairly cold on a regular basis. The one thing to note throughout all of these series is that a lot of them have been 1-goal wins, or has been 3-1 with like a bare like 2 goals win or something like that. But it's something that we definitely need to look out for. And James want to watch the OT that's happening on right now. So we're
I
gonna
do too.
basically break things down really quick and let you guys enjoy that playoff series. Um, any final thoughts that you guys have in terms of what we should be expecting, or things we may not have
It's gonna be
considered?
it's gonna be a really physical series.
Physical series, yes, very physical series. But
It'll be
it
fun to
should
watch.
be
Discipline's going to be really important.
yes.
That too.
That's going to be huge. I think a lot of it's going to come down to just discipline.
Three points for me. Talbot has to win the goaltending battle. The power special teams have to win their battle, and the second line has to play well.
James, do you have 3 things?
More production needed from the second line. More stability needed from Sekera and Russell.
Yes.
And you get 2 things. That's it.
Okay, 2 things. My 3 things are going to be, I agree with you. I think Sekera, especially more than Russell, needs to be more stable in his own zone. I think it's how well second line is able to shut down Getzlaff. And then the last point is how well we don't fall into the trap of playing to the Ducks game of falling into their shit disturbing style. And Pool Party, I do agree. A secret 4th one is how well the team recovers from the flu. But on that point, we will basically conclude our lovely podcast today. We went on for a little bit longer than we expected. That being said, we covered a lot of stuff, and that sets us off very nicely for the second round of the playoffs. But hope you guys enjoy the OT period. This has been a Runetic 5, otherwise known as a Rune. With me today, we're Adam, Sweet44722, and James, otherwise known as Paul-McCartney- on Reddit. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy the shit posting on Reddit that's going on right now. And we will see you after 4, 5, or 6 days. See you guys.